right? It is so gorgeous here. I am thrilled that you chose to be in here for this hour with me. Really excited and passionate about this topic. So glad to get this kicked off. So if you are here to either learn for yourself or to be able to help others to know how to respond in those moments where you're not quite sure what to do, something inappropriate, insensitive, uncivil, just darn right uncomfortable has happened, then you're in the right room. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm also really encouraged, if you look around the room, there's a lot of you here in this session, which means I'm betting you've been in one of these situations before and you're looking for some assistance. So you are not alone in the room. Again, my name is Tara Taylor. I use she, her pronouns. I am the managing director of ADR Vantage, which is a small woman-owned consulting firm based in DC, although we serve the entire country. We've been around about 30 years. And the reason I am passionate about this topic is because I spent about 20 years of my career working in civil rights and social justice and anti-discrimination. And I'm a mediator and a facilitator by trade. And I sat and listened to many complaints or allegations of misconduct, inappropriate behavior, discrimination cases. And I often thought, there's these moments where I think I could help people avoid the escalation to the point where it's gotten to me as a mediator or it's gotten to an adjudicate judge or some process like that. So that's why I'm here. My firm does a lot of conflict management, leadership development, training, and all kinds of other organizational development stuff. And this is one of those topics that I think is going to be helpful for everyone. So let's jump in. All right, so I'm going to describe a few situations that might feel familiar to you. I know that I've experienced them. So imagine this. A friend or maybe a family member has said something inappropriate that makes you wince, but maybe you let it go or the moment passes before you can even recognize that what happened is not supposed to happen, and you're still left trying to figure out how to respond. Or maybe there's a colleague at work who makes a joke that crosses the line, but you don't directly supervise them, so you're kind of feeling like, am I comfortable intervening? Should I, shouldn't I? Or maybe you just don't have the time or the energy that day to deal with something like that. Or maybe you hear about an employee who tends to be the one that loudly voices some pretty controversial opinions about politics or current affairs, and you know their loud opinions are likely to make others uncomfortable. And even though I know you all are well-trained HR professionals, I'm betting one or two of us has put our foot in our mouth ourselves before, and perhaps not known, how do I backtrack out of that? Or, oops, I didn't mean to say that. Or, what do I do now? Right? All these moments, I call them cringe moments. And they happen sometimes unexpectedly. Oops, sorry about that. And we don't know what to do in those moments. So I want you to take a sec. I gave you a couple examples, but I'm betting you can think of your own examples of a time when something inappropriate, uncivil, harassing, insensitive happened in a workplace you're either now in or you've been in the past. So I want you to just think about it for a second. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to turn to somebody quickly in this room. I am going to give you just a quick 2 to 3 minute fast partner pair up. You're going to turn to somebody maybe you know, maybe somebody new, and you can make a friend. You're going to quickly introduce yourselves, and then each of you share an example of one of those cringe moments, one of those moments where something inappropriate, insensitive, harassing happened. Either you directly experienced it, you were the target of the behavior, or you witnessed it, or you heard about it. All right? So very quickly, find a friend, go. It's okay if it's more than one friend. Judgment-free zone. Take about 1 more minute. If you are online, go ahead and drop your example into the chat. All right, try to finish up. 15 seconds. All right, let's come back together. Finish your last sentence. I'm going to use my kindergarten teacher voice. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. I know you could talk forever with your new best friend. So I'm going to bet by the volume in this room, y'all had no trouble coming up with examples, right? I love it. I am not going to ask you to share aloud. And I want to remind you, judgment-free, 3 minutes there, right? You're not going to walk out and go, oh my God, Sally's office is so bad, right? Maybe Sally was telling you about something from a past job. It's okay. All right, but I appreciate that time. So all of the examples that you likely shared with your partner fall under what I'm going to refer to as the umbrella of inappropriate workplace behavior. So I'm going to use that term, inappropriate workplace behavior. But what I really mean is insensitive, uncivil, even harassing behavior. Everything from the legal to the illegal, everything from the more subtle to the more extreme, right? And here's some examples of what falls under the umbrella. And don't worry, you've got access to my slides for later. Right? But look at those little rain bubbles underneath. Everything from gossip and spreading rumors to humiliation, rude or snide comments, bullying, intimidation, or other threatening behavior, insults, put-downs, name-calling, unwelcome question and attention regarding somebody's identity, negative or inaccurate stereotypes, dirty looks, repeatedly interrupting someone or not letting them get into a conversation, maybe excluding them from conversations or from important projects, inappropriate staring or watching. If you've ever had it happen to you, you know what that feels like, right? All of these examples under the umbrella, and this is certainly not an exhaustive list, but it gives you a sense of what we're talking about. Some of these are more extreme, as I mentioned. Some may seem more subtle, but regardless, all of the behaviors under the umbrella start to corrode a healthy workplace. They're detrimental to the experience employees have and ultimately impact the effectiveness of the organization. So let me talk a second about those impacts, right? When behavior goes unchecked, bad behavior like the ones under the umbrella, these are the impacts. This is what research tells us. Employees have decreased morale, motivation, engagement, decreased productivity, decreased trust and belonging. There's more turnover in the workplace. The employer, the organization gets a negative reputation inside the organization and outside within the community. There's harm to the overall well-being of your employees. You as HR professionals spend increased time and money on issues that escalate and become bigger conflicts. You might bring in mediators like me to deal with that. And there's also a loss of confidence by employees in their leadership and in the organization. So when bad behavior continues to happen, when it goes unchecked, you're really setting yourself up for a negative and toxic work environment. And why does all that matter? Because guess what? Workplace culture is contagious. Good or bad, when the culture is breeding bad behavior, when it's filled with incivility, inappropriate, insensitive, or harassing behaviors, research shows that employees are more likely to behave rudely when they think it's accepted by their colleagues. Even typically good employees are less polite when workplace rudeness goes unchecked. And when bad behavior is tolerated and not interrupted, it sends a signal to everybody that this is okay. This is how we do things here at the workplace. So not only are your new employees learning bad behavior, the ones who've been doing it for a while or who've been around in a while think, oh, this is just the norm. And in fact, the saying goes, the culture of an organization is shaped by the worst behaviors leaders are willing to tolerate. Pretty heavy duty stuff. And I'll tell you, this is even more important in 2025. Right now, this is all of a particular concern because incivility and all those behaviors under the umbrella is on the rise. You may have heard Johnny Taylor talking a few days ago, saying that workplace incivility is being measured by SHRM. First quarter last year compared to first quarter this year, there was a 21.5% increase in incidents of workplace incivility. And right now, we are still in a pretty divisive political and ideological environment that's coming into the workplace. Different people, different identities, different perspectives. There's return to office mandates. The federal government's going through quite a bit of layoff, reduction in force, early retirement buyouts. So all of this is impacting the employees who are either losing or leaving their jobs and those who are left behind with less and doing more. So this is what's leading to those greater incidents of incivility creeping into the workplace, and that's why it's so important right now. The same research I mentioned on the last slide also says that most workers across all industries agree that more can be done, and they're expecting their leaders and managers to do something about it. So this is the perfect storm, but it's also the perfect time for you as HR leaders to really sort of lead the charge on this. So we know all this is bad for the workplace, right? But when inappropriate workplace behavior happens, what do you think is the most typical response from most employees? Yeah, ignore it. Do nothing, right? It's actually human nature that when we get uncomfortable, we start to freeze up, right? That fight or flight instinct comes in. We sort of look like the deer in the headlights. Why do you think we don't respond? What are some of those reasons why we might not respond? And you can speak out loudly or wave to someone for a mic. So I heard overreacting. Fear, trauma, I think, power dynamics, avoiding conflict. Yeah, I love all that. Oh, you're capturing all the ones on my fun emoji slide. All right, so absolutely fear. I heard a lot of you say that right away. Oh my gosh, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I got it wrong? Did I really hear them right? Did I really interpret that situation the right way? Am I the right person to do this? And I don't like conflict. Anxiety, right? We start to get uncomfortable. Is somebody else going to say something? Should I say something? Did anybody else hear this, right? Anxiety starts to rise up. And then we think, well, if I interrupt this, do I even know how to interrupt? Am I the right person? What am I going to do? Discomfort. Many of us just don't like conflict or confrontation. And so we sort of pull back into our shell. We think somebody else will handle it. Maybe this will pass. Maybe it was a mistake. Avoidance and apathy. I don't care what's going on in this workplace. I'm not dealing with it. Not my job. It also can be a sense of, I'm not really committed to this organization, so I'm not going to work that hard to interrupt this kind of behavior. Right? We've all got those employees who just aren't plugged into engagement. And then relationships. This last one, I think, is so critical. I hear oftentimes, well, I don't want to embarrass that person. well, I've got a relationship with them, and if I say something, that's going to rock the boat, and I really can't afford that. Or if it's somebody higher up than you, that's a tricky one, right? How do you then do that? So there are plenty of reasons that our bodies and our minds are telling us to not intervene. However, there are more reasons why it is so important for us to do something in those moments. And I'll tell you why I think the reason is we don't respond often is we don't know how. We've never spent intentional time planning how to do this. So that's why you're here today, right? We're going to come up with some really good categories of options for you to respond and even practice it. But I want to remind you that when we do nothing, nothing changes. If nobody interrupts, if nobody intervenes, then lots more happens in the workplace. Employees assume that others don't see or don't care about it. It sends a loud signal to all employees that bad behavior is acceptable or at least tolerated. Say that one again. It sends a very loud signal. Okay, I guess this is allowed here, right? Everybody tolerates it. The behavior is going to happen again if it's not interrupted and likely will escalate. More employees are going to become targets, so not just that one individual you may have seen it happen to. So there's greater harm, and opportunities to learn from this are missed. So I know that a lot of us in HR will say, well, I'll deal with it later in private. Well, you know, it's really not appropriate for me to do that in the room with everybody else watching. I will tell you, as a long-time mediator and facilitator of these sticky situations, we care more about protecting the person who's doing the bad behavior than the target of the bad behavior. Think about that. When you say, oh, I'm going to wait and deal with it over here because I don't want to embarrass that person, you've let the bad behavior happen, and the person who did it gets to walk away and nobody learns from it, right? And in that vacuum, people assume that the workplace doesn't care or isn't going to act on it. So it's really powerful to use this as an opportunity for all employees to learn. Now, as much as I'd like to believe that we all have the power to change hearts and minds of those around us in the workplace, we all know that often isn't true, and that's not the focus of today's session, right? Today we're focused on what can you do and what should you do in the moment, in real time, when you're faced with words, actions, behaviors that are considered inappropriate. So if our purpose is not necessarily to make better humans, if that happens, great, congratulations. But if that's not our focus, our real focus is to plan for in the moment, real time responses that do four things. Everything I'm going to teach you is going to hopefully interrupt the behavior right there in the moment when it's happening, prevent escalation, limit the harm, and model and sustain a positive workplace culture. That's it. I'm not telling you that people shouldn't report this behavior. I'm not telling you that people shouldn't come to HR. What we're talking about today is something happens and you're right there in the moment. What can you do? So, these are the four things I want you to keep in mind when you are preparing to respond, right? So you've decided I'm going to do something about this in the moment, and we all have a choice whether we respond in the moment or not. I am advocating for leaning into greater action because I have seen inaction tear down organizations and employees. So I am advocating for the thing that none of us have really studied, none of us were really taught well about how to do it in the moment. And I'm advocating for something that you don't know how to do well because otherwise, why would you come to this session, right? You know how to report. You know how to teach people to report. This is the stuff we don't really get to spend time on. So when you're thinking about it, always remember to speak for yourself, not for what you think others think or feel. So here's how this might show up, for example. If something bad happens and you say, well, you know what? I don't think all the ladies in this room would really like that. Right? We're not going to speak for the ladies in the room. You're going to say, I don't like that behavior or that language. You wouldn't say, I don't think all of our Hispanic employees are going to like XYZ. Right? Unless you're a member of that group and you think you can speak for everyone, which you likely can't, you're going to say, I don't think that's a good idea, and here's why. So always be thinking about speaking for yourself, not what you think others think and feel, right? That's going to keep you on track with this. Focus on the behavior, not the person. Focus on the problem, not the person. So this is all about when you get heated and there's a moment that's happening, it is easy to lash out at the person. Oh, that person's a racist, a sexist, a jerk, right? But if we start to attack the person or their personality, it's not going to get us very far, and it likely won't result in the change that you want. So you're going to focus on what was the behavior, the words, the actions, and what was the impact of it. When you did this, it has this impact. When you behave this way, this is what it happens to our employees. So you're going to focus on the behavior, not the person. This seems really easy, but anytime you're preparing to respond, I would really encourage you to take a breath, take a beat, take a pause. Nothing gets worse by a pause. And in that vacuum, when you go for your pause, it actually gives time for the bad actor, the person doing the bad behavior, to perhaps change course, reset, apologize, realize what they've done. Maybe you have to do nothing at all, right? So taking that pause can actually be one of your techniques. And then lastly, right, as you're getting prepared, you're going to consider your approach. So I'm not going to tell you that every situation is ripe for an immediate intervention. However, I want you to take that pause to think, what can I do? What could I do that could perhaps help this situation limit the harm, limit the escalation, right? And create the workplace culture we want. So those are the 4 things. Are you ready to learn some techniques? Yes? Okay. Thank you for letting me set all that up. It's really important to kind of get that mindset going. All right. Today, we are going to talk about what I call the 4 S's. This is based on 4 categories of research-backed ways to interrupt and intervene in the moment for inappropriate behavior. Right at the bottom with that little star, I'm always going to remind you, what's our purpose? We're not making better humans. We're not making better worker bees. We are interrupting, preventing escalation, limiting harm, creating a good culture. All right, so I'm going to explain each of these. Then I'm going to give you some examples. Then I'm going to ask you for some examples, and then we're going to do some scenarios to practice it. Sound good? All right. And remember, in your materials in the app, I actually have given you a whole resource guide with lots of ideas. So don't forget to download that PDF. All right, space is the first one. Space is about using either the physical or virtual space around you, time, pauses, or nonverbals, or distance from the situation. I will tell you more about it, but space is our first one. Speak, these are going to be quick, direct, interrupter words or phrases. Very fast to get in there and interrupt the momentum of what's happening. Seek is all about good, powerful questions, being curious. And say is probably the most interventionist of all these techniques. This is making a statement, sharing thoughts or feelings, or setting a clear boundary in the workplace. 4 categories. So let's jump in to our first one, space. All right. So this one is probably the least invasive strategy, but often is very, very effective and can stop bad behavior right in its tracks. It also, again, gives the person who's the bad actor a chance to save face, because, we're not there to sort of slap somebody on the wrist. Hopefully people will learn and correct their behavior and go on and still be good contributing members in your workplace. So I'm going to give you a couple examples, and if you can see my face also, I'll try to act them out. So something happens, inappropriate, uncivil, right? And here's a few things you can do to use space. You can clearly show a look of surprise right in the moment. You don't even have to say a word, just and let that look of surprise land on the bad actor. You can look around the room at others. You don't have to be the person who responds. I like to look around and go, I might even nod over there. Oh, Tamiko, what do you think about that? You know, I'm going to look around the room very quietly to see what the reactions are, see if anybody else is going to do something. I might raise an eyebrow. I have a really good one eyebrow raise. I don't know if others have this. Can't see me close, but just one, right? Some of you have the good double eyebrow, right? Use the eyebrow for power. That sometimes sends a signal right across the room. Make an audible sigh. That's a good one, right? Don't have to say a word. Or I like this one, blinking like this, real fast blink, right? Right? That is conveying what just happened, right? Or I've seen people do it with a closed eye, like a long closed eye, all right? So our friends here in the teal shirts are going to come around with a microphone. I want to hear a few of your examples before I give you more of my tips. So again, you're going to use your physical space, the virtual space, pauses, or nonverbals. When something awkward happens, what could you do that uses space? Give me an example. Yes. Anybody? Yeah, so you could literally turn your body to someone. We're going to get into the next one, which is short phrases. Did you just say that? Right? You could add it. And what's really cool about these 4 S's, you can combine them or you can repeat the same one. But I love that. Turn your body, right? You're all in a meeting and you go, right? You could even do the fast blink if you want with it, right? Yes. What else? Please, Lori. Oh, I love that. I'm not sure that's a career advancing comment to make. So you're getting into the next one for me. Absolutely. How about these other ones using space? Please, yes. Oh, I love it. Covering your mouth like shock. Yeah, I'm over exaggerating. I'm quite dramatic, but yes, I love that. Please. Yes, walked out of a room. So I love that. Thank you for saying that. You always have the option in the space category to remove yourself from the situation. I'm going to tell you another version of that. I've been sitting in a meeting and rolled my chair back. Like physical distance. Or if you're standing in the hallway and something happens, I'll just, right? You're conveying a message strongly, please. Turn it off. Yeah, so we're asking if you're an HR person, am I allowed to do that? And she's saying, if I walk out on that, am I just leaving that and that's inappropriate? I love the question. I think that's something for each of you to think about, right? And remember, this session is also to help you, but for you to help other employees, managers, and leaders with these skills. So absolutely, you may be in a situation where you have to deal with that. And often that's the struggle. Oh, I could report this, I can write it up, and you can still do all of that and still interrupt something in the moment. You also can remove yourself from a situation and come back.
Tilting your head to one side.
I'm sorry?
Here, tilting your head.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, the head tilt. I love it.
So,
yes.
Oh, another version of the walking out of the room. Maybe you can just do a quick, let's take a 5-minute break, bathroom break, and get everybody to just reset.
I love that one. Let's take a 5-minute break. Or you could even say, I need a 5-minute break from that. You can, right? Absolutely. All versions. Another one?
How do you use space in a virtual environment?
Ooh. Oh, okay. So I heard some responses. Immediately, camera off is one option, right? Go dark. Go dark, right? Here's the other one I do. I physically move back from the camera. Right? Here I am all in the, yay, here we're talking, and I'm going back. the distance is felt in that environment. And absolutely, you all have some other suggestions too. Yes.
Is it too intimidating if you give him a stare? No?
Well, I don't know you well. Your stare may be very intimidating. However, yes, I love it, right? The stare. And the stare, boy, some of you've got the real, mom stare, like right into someone's soul. I've learned that over the years with my teenagers. Absolutely. Let me give you a couple of others, because I love that you're thinking about this. You can scrunch up your face, right? Just whatever you're thinking in your mind, put it on your face. I don't like that. You could steeple your hands in front of you. You could turn your head away, as someone suggested. Put your hands on the table in front of you like in a stop motion. You could roll your eyes. You could shake your head in disagreement. You could take a step back, as we've talked about, virtually or in person. Or, how about this one? The hand. You could combine the hand with the blinking, with the roll, any of it, okay? All of these are great, great examples. And I'm sure now that we're talking about it, you're like, I'm going to think about what else I got here, what other ways I can do it. Trust me that this seems simple, but when you come armed with these in your toolkit, I'm helping you build a toolkit of things you can do in the moment, so that when that moment hits you, you don't go, oh my God, I forgot my toolkit at home, right? It's there. You have it. You have lots of different options. So space is one of them. We're going to come back to this. The idea, again, is to interrupt, prevent escalation, limit the harm, create a good culture. I'm going to keep going because I want to give you lots of options for this. We're going to talk about speak. This one you already started to get into. These are the one or two words or very short phrases that are direct and they are meant to interrupt. There's a difference between healing, fixing, reporting. This is about interruption. I'm going to stop the momentum from what's happening right now. So I'm going to give you 3 or 4, and then I'm going to look to you again for some examples, right? Here's the first one. Oops. So I'm going to give you an example where I use this. My grandmother, who is passed now, used to refer to persons of Asian descent as Oriental. Oriental is not an appropriate terminology to describe someone's identity. It's out of favor. And it has some historical harm associated with the word. And it's okay if you're just learning that for the first time, right? This is good information to share. So I coached, because I did a lot of diversity equity work over my career, I kind of coached my grandma to say, Grandma, that's not a word that people use anymore, and here's why it's harmful, and it would be better if you said Asian American. And, at 85, she got it, but was very used to saying Oriental. So every time it would come up in a future conversation, instead of kind of berating her, and I love my grandma and I have the relationship, I would say, oops, right? And it would be a little signal to say, that's not the word, right? And it wasn't hurtful or harmful. It was really meant as an interrupter. And she knew what it meant, and she would kind of course correct and go forward. So oops, right? These little direct interrupter words can be great. Another one, ouch, right? This is one you can use when the harm is evident, right? There's been a comment made about someone's identity. There's been a sexist or racist or really just a slur or an epithet or some other inappropriateness happens. You can use the ouch. This one's a good one too. I've heard people do. Wow. Oh, somebody echoed me. Right? And you can deliver it a million different ways. You can go, wow. Or wow. Or wowee. Right? You can do all the things, however it works for you. If humor's your thing, if directness is your thing, whatever is you and feels authentic to you, I'm giving you options. Here's another one. Not cool. My college students, I teach a few college courses, and they do this one often. They're right in there. Not cool, dude. Not cool. Right? They'll tell you right away. All right, I got a few more, but let me hear from you. If you're thinking about this, what's a short word or phrase you could use to interrupt behavior like this?
I like to say, did you mean that?
Oh,
Did
did you
to say
mean that? I love it. And actually, you're getting into the questions, which are going to be next. Terrific. I heard up here, that's a 0 out of 10. I love it. I love it. I've never heard it. Love it. Yes, please. Here in the sweater.
How about timeout?
Hold on one second. I've got this one up here was, come on. Come on. And what was that one?
Timeout?
Oh, time out. Yes, yes. And you could even do that with a nonverbal, like, time out. Love it.
Just a quick one is nope.
Nope. Yes. Yes. Oh, see how good you all are at this? You know this stuff. I've got 2 right here in the white sweater and in the mint green. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. Oh, wow. That just sounds like an HR run, right? Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Yes, please.
It's a little bit of a question. Is saying something like I do, like, hello, I'm 29, so sometimes I'll go, ooh, hard pass. But
Ooh,
is that
hard
making
pass.
it too funny now?
Well, it's a great question. And I think that's what's unique about it and why I'm giving you lots of different resources is because you've got to find what works for you. And I'll tell you what I would do is pay attention to their reaction. If I said, hard pass, and they just kept going with it, then I'm like, oh, they missed my meaning or it wasn't emphatic enough. So I think you might have to play with it, but I like that. I like that. Yes, please.
My go-to is interesting.
Interesting. I love that one too. That's a tone, right? So all of these can be delivered with a tone that feels authentic for you. For sure. Any others?
One more. I'll say, oh,
What is the next one? And please, if you're online, drop them in there because I know we got some good ideas online.
I'll say stop it.
Stop it.
Like, that's not cool, but
That's not
I
cool.
won't be like slapping the person on the face. I'll just say stop it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear, but stop.
I'll say stop it.
Stop it. Yes, these are so good. Let me give you some more of mine. Oh, did I have one more? Please.
I always say, oh, pause. That's my big one.
Pause. Yes, that's my beautiful friend in the yellow. When you walked in, I saw the sunshine. So, yes, pause. Great ones. Great ones. Here's a few more. Whoa. Stop. Somebody said that earlier. That's not okay. All of these are just short, direct interrupters. Guess what? You're going to get even more from me. Look at this. I don't understand. Right? There are moments where you can feign confusion to allow that person to reset and perhaps head in a different direction. I don't understand. I hope you aren't serious. Enough. That's not relevant to our discussion. Just like earlier, that's not helpful. No. That kind of goes with the nope. This makes me uncomfortable. I'm surprised to hear you say something like that. I love this one. It really assumes that someone can be better than the behavior that's happening in the moment. And it can catch them short and make them change course. And if that happens, then I've done my job. I interrupted it, right? I limited the harm. That's not appropriate. That comment didn't land well on me. To my younger friend up here, I am not 29 anymore, but I have said things similarly. I'm feeling a certain way about that, right? I'm feeling a certain way about what you just said or did. It gives you a second to think about what you're going to say next, but it also gives them a second. I didn't even tell them how I'm feeling. I just said, I'm having a feeling. I'm having a reaction, right? These are all terrific ways to interrupt the momentum. Let's keep going because so many of you were on the question path and I love it, right? So questions. What questions could you ask? Let's get like maybe 3 examples and then I'll give you more. What questions? What did you mean? What the? Yes, yes. I saw one more up front here.
Help me understand that.
Oh, help me. Yeah, help me understand that. Did you have one, ma'am? Okay. Yeah. So curiosity is your superpower in these moments, right? You can be feigning curiosity, like you know what they meant by that, but you're going to ask them. You can also get really curious. There are people who often commit acts of bad behavior because either it's been modeled for them, nobody has interrupted it, they don't understand the history that is attached to what they're saying or the words they're using. And so if you get curious, you can give them time to perhaps learn something and act differently. So here are some good examples. What or what do you mean? I don't get it. Can you explain? I heard you say X. Is that what you meant to say? What's going on right now? Right? Have you considered this alternate opinion or doing this differently? I see things a little differently. Mind if I share why? Could you say more about what you mean by that? Would you please not do or say that? Very clear, right? What kind of impact do you think your actions are going to have on our employees, on our team, on others? Yes, please.
So I'm curious about this technique because maybe it doesn't work, but sometimes I'll just repeat back what they just said slowly with a question mark at the end, sort of. Like, do you hear how ridiculous what you said sounds when I say it back to you?
Oh, that's fabulous. Absolutely. So parrot back the last phrase or the last sentence and form it as a question. It's almost like, wait a minute, did you hear yourself? Right? And that gives them, again, a chance to course correct. Perfect. These are wonderful. I know you can think of more examples. I've given you more examples in the resource guide. Let me catch this last category so that we can practice one or two examples. So the last category is probably the most direct of all of them. Remember, we went from space, right, which was nonverbals. Then we went to the short, direct interrupters, speak. Then we went to seek, questions. Now we're on say. This is really about making a fuller statement, sharing your thoughts or feelings, or setting a clear boundary. So here's a few examples. You might mean well, but that word or phrase is harmful. I'd appreciate you not using that word or saying that thing or doing that, right? You can fill it in with whatever you like. Oh, thanks for bringing that up. I've been looking for opportunities to correct that misconception, right? I love that one when somebody makes a comment about somebody's identity or makes a stereotypical comment that's not true. I don't like the way this seems to be going, so let's stop right here, right? You're telling them, we're not going forward. That kind of behavior is not okay. What other statements might you make in these situations that's a little more fulsome, a little more direct? Yes, your hand went right up, and then I saw one up here too. This doesn't align with our core values. I love it, right? Go back to your mission, your values, right? What you said in the employee handbook at orientation, right? Go back to that. Love it. What was yours up here? Oh, what made you think I was a safe person to have this kind of conversation with? Yes, right? Remember, you have the spectrum, right? The speak, seek, say, all that. You have all these options. That is a clear one. What else?
I have a quick question
Yes.
pertaining to this. So I know earlier you mentioned, like, we need to be saying this stuff in the moment, but I wonder if we partly address it in the moment and say, but I'd like to follow up with you offline. Something along the lines of, hey, I'd love to table this conversation and chat more with you later about it.
Yes.
So it indicates that, gosh, this might not be okay, but let's circle around later, so what do you think about that?
Yeah. I love it. Is your hand up to respond to that? Yeah, I'd love for you to respond. Yeah, please.
This conversation is no longer productive, so let's go ahead and take a minute, take a breath, and we'll come back when we've both calmed down.
Oh, okay. So this conversation's unproductive. Let's take a minute. Yeah, both of those versions are absolutely great. And here's the thing. I'm not telling you this is your only response or that you don't have more to have a conversation with. So you're right on track. And sometimes everybody in the room needs to know that's not okay. Right? That at your workplace, you're not going to let that slide or save face for that person who's doing a bad thing. You're going to interrupt and limit the harm because the workplace culture you all want is what's paramount. right? So you absolutely, I love it. And to be thoughtful about, is this a repeat behavior? Is this something that was really overt, right? You're all going to have to make decisions in the moment, but you have these kind of tools in your toolbox. Yes, please, and then I'll come up here.
I just recently did this last week. I stopped the conversation and said, "Meet me in my office."
Oh, meet me in my office. Yes. Thank you. That is a good say one. Yes, right. I mean, we as HR professionals, we are obligated in many ways to make sure that the workplace is safe and functional for every employee, not just the one who's committing the bad behavior, right? Love these.
What if the aggressor is the one who's telling you, we're not going anywhere, let's stop this conversation? I've heard that many times.
Yeah.
So it's the aggressor telling the HR, us, because I've heard it, I had experience of that. This is not getting anywhere, we're not going anywhere, so let's stop this conversation. What do you tell them? It's kind of the opposite.
Yeah. So sometimes the aggressor or the bad actor will sort of flip the script to try to get you off kilter. So oftentimes, and there is no one reason or way to do this, I think you still have all four of your categories. You can sit there and stare at them, do the blank, right? You could say, really? No? Right? You could still use all of these techniques. You could also ask a great question. What's making you think that right now? What's making you think that we're done? Or, right? Or I'm curious. What's prompting you to say that right now, right? You can respond using all of these tools. Absolutely. And it sounds like somebody like that is somebody to have a separate conversation with. Absolutely. That's not how this works. Yeah. So one more here, and then I'm going to share what I've got, and we'll practice.
How about if the aggressor wants to approach the culture of the place to be more comfortable and not really HR acceptable?
Can you repeat that again? I'm so sorry.
How about if the aggressor wants to approach a culture in the work environment where it's a little too comfortable that it's not really HR appropriate? The culture.
The culture?
Yes.
Yeah, if they're coming in, approaching the culture where it's more comfortable and they're not thinking that HR can do something about it?
The way that they're approaching the culture, it's not HR appropriate in certain things. How do you handle those kind of situations?
Yeah, I heard a lot of oh right around you. And I wonder if somebody around you wants to respond. Yep, I saw your hand go right up. You were like, oh, I got an answer for that. Yeah, very quickly, and then we'll get this last category.
Well, if I understood correctly, it's more like if the answer is not like HR appropriate, basically, to the person that we are calling the aggressor. Is that? Yeah. It's more like the reaction of the person. You know, like for instance, somebody says something that is inappropriate, and I come back and I'm offended, and perhaps I make it worse because I said something that I shouldn't say.
Yeah. Well, and remember, this is where you all have choice and agency in how you're going to respond. So I think this is the time to practice it, come up with a few things that you do feel are appropriate. And there's always a time where you can stop the conversation. Just because I'm giving you these interactions doesn't mean that everybody is going to be willing to course correct or reset. So you may need to repeat this. You may find that you need to combine this, or that you may simply need to take another tack, right? Take them aside, have a conversation, do something differently. So I hope I'm understanding that, but these are not necessarily like your only tools in your toolkit, but they're meant to be helpful. And absolutely come see me afterwards, because we can talk through, if you got a specific situation in mind, we can walk it through. Absolutely. And so I just want to offer you a few more here. It's in your resource handbook, right? Couple of others you could use in this category. That's not acceptable behavior. I'm having a strong reaction to what you said. That's not the type of language our team uses. As part of my role as an HR, blah, 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 it's my responsibility to reinforce our inclusive work environment. So, and you go on and you tell them what needs to be different. You can also tell them when you do X, right? The impact is this, and it negatively affects our organization or our team. So be really clear how their behavior connects to the impact. These are all really good examples. You all are really, really good at this. You're going to get lots more in that resource guide. So let's do a quick review with our last few minutes. Remember, these are the 4 categories: space, speak, seek, and say. And we're going to do maybe 1, maybe 2 examples. And I would love to hear how you might utilize this in an example. So here's my first one. During a heated conversation about project priorities, a coworker says, "You clearly don't get how this works. Why don't you let the adults handle it?" They say it with a smirk and move on as if it's a joke. So you're in this meeting. What would you do? And your little cheat sheet there is up in the corner, right? So tell me, what might you try first? Oh, okay. Oh, I hear it. So somebody went, they did the audible inhale of air. Other people went, whoa, wow. What was this one? No bueno. No bueno. Yeah, look how they're cropping up the more you think of them, right? Some of you might go straight to the say, the more direct, and go, oh no, we don't say things like that in this team. Right? But look at all the range of possibilities you have in an example like that. Right now, you're going to walk out of this session and you're going to be able to use these and tell your team and your employees, hey, we can handle this stuff in the moment because we've got these different options. Let's try another one. Employees are informally chatting before the start of an all-staff meeting. An employee who appears to be of Asian descent shares that they recently visited family abroad. A colleague of yours responds saying, "Your English is so good, I forget you're not from here." If you look around closely in this room, several people look down because they've experienced this before. I saw the knowing looks. And these are all taken from real examples for conflicts that I have dealt with. So what could you do? Okay, so this might be a good time to go. You might not have meant to offend, but you did. Yes, you could simply say you did. Or that's not appropriate. Or boy, that's, whatever you want to say after that. Love it. What else? Some of you did the space reaction right here in the room. You went, or you went, I saw somebody go like this, right? The shake head. You can do those too. Any other bright ideas for this one? Oh, the stop hand. So would you say stop or just the hand? Yes, I love the facial expression, right? There is so much power in our minds and bodies to offer people a chance to get it right, course correct, and also tell them the kind of culture we want in our organization. Let's see if we can do this last one. You notice that whenever your colleague Maria begins to speak in team meetings, she's interrupted or talked over by a few other team members who then move the conversation on to another topic without returning to Maria's point. This isn't the first time you've seen this happen in this group. What would you do?
Great job.
You would jump right to speak and say what? So she's saying she's saying that you would set expectations and say this isn't how we're going to do things. So even if you don't have team norms, even if you haven't set expectations prior, you can right there in the moment go, you know what? I hear that Maria's getting skipped over, and I'd really like that to not be the norm for how we run our meetings. Do you notice I didn't say you are skipping over Maria? I said Maria's getting skipped over. So again, there's 2 different ways you can do your language. You can leave out the pronoun or the name, right? You can say what's happening. That's not how we do it on this team. Did you have one? Excuse me. Ooh, everyone on our team deserves to be heard. Let's let Maria talk. Yeah. Please, last one there. I'd like to hear Maria's opinion. Absolutely, right? There's so many ways to do this. It's 3:11. I can get one more example in. You are walking through a hallway in your organization's main office where many employee cubicles are located. You observe a supervisor standing at one employee's desk become visibly angry, slams papers on the desks, and yells at that employee in front of the others, asking, "How many times do I have to tell you people to get it right?" What would you do? I can't wait to read the chat on this for those of you online. That's a hard pass example. Yes. Those of you in the back of the room, boy, if you were up here, I'd be calling on you. But let me hear this. Yes, please. You and direct supervisor, come talk with me right now. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, it's tricky, right? When you are either not the supervisor of them, or perhaps you're an HR person who's parallel to the supervisor who is doing the bad behavior, right? It gets a little trickier when there's any kind of power dynamic at play. And I know some of you are thinking that. Yes, please. Okay, so you physically removed somebody and said, "Hey, can you come talk to me real quick?" Yeah. Remember, you got lots of tools, right? You can go, "Whoa, that was really loud." Or, "Gosh, what am I hearing over here?" Right? Or, "Shoo-wee." Yes, right? So I give you lots of options, not to make light of this, because so many of these situations are critical to creating the culture that respects everyone in the workplace. But I also want you to be armed with a range of tools that you can employ depending on how you're feeling that day, how well you know the employees involved, the context of the situation. This is all for you to have in your toolkit, bring out when needed. And honestly, if we don't talk about it like this and practice it, it's much harder to do. This session is about building your confidence to do it yourself and to model it for others in the workplace so that they see what's possible to interrupt. So I want to give you a quick challenge in my last minute and ask you how you're going to take what you learned today and carry it forward to your organization. Because what's really powerful is when you take this learning back and you go, "Oh, I went to this session and it was so nice outside, but I decided to come in here. And this lady with the big earrings who had trouble with her tech in the beginning, she told me," right? You're going to take it back. So I would love for you to really think about how you're going to bring this back. And if you have questions or you need help or support, you've got a resource guide in the materials from me. You can scan the QR code for my business card. You can find me online. And please come ask me questions at the end. Thank you so much for being here.